It's IB Nation Sports Talk. It's up and rolling. He's Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Funny, I just realized I've got my Brooklyn shirt on. There was some Brooklyn chatter going on with Irish Chi-Town in the chat a little bit ago as we were getting ready to start. How are you today, Mr. D'Addario?
I'm great. I was on a field trip today. I was the grill master, grilling up burgers and dogs for like 150 or so kids and, just doing my thing. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful day today. Beautiful day.
I miss those days when you used to, the special days in school.
Yes.
Like when you'd get one of those where
it's a special day for me too.
It's grill outside day. We're gonna spend our last 2 hours of school outside, or whatever, doing whatever.
Yeah. It was a legit field trip to one of the county parks, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. The kids had a great time, and I'll be lying if I said I didn't have a great time as well.
Very good. Very good.
How was your day?
Not bad. Fairly uneventful. A little chilly out there today. I spent part of the last 2 afternoons doing the grass, and I let it get very long because I was pushing it. I'm trying to make Tuesday my regular day. So I had to let it, grow a little bit longer, which caused difficulties in the consistency of the mow because it was so long and stuff like that. And then yesterday, the power was out at my house for a couple of hours.
Oh.
So I had to cut off the lawn mowing so that I could go over to Meyer and sit in the deli, did a little work on the computer, but had my stuff plugged in case I was going to need to use it, with no power, like, my hotspot on my phone and the computer and all that. So I was getting everything to full charge. So I had to cut it short. But then, the happy ending to that story was I got home and the power was back on. So I didn't have to worry about, doing that kind of stuff. But ended up with some yard duty 2 days in a row as a result, because I kind of had to stop in the middle.
Makes sense.
Yes. It is Mailbag Day, so get in your
baby.
questions today. And, of course, smash the like button and subscribe, rate, and review and all that good stuff. Had something that I wanted to throw out there to you before we get to some of these questions, though, because, we were kicking around Audric Estime and a nickname for him the other day, and someone suggested A-Train, which we thought was perfect. And I saw, someone tweeted at us, A-Train was taken by some pro wrestler, and he's talking about WWE has it trademarked and stuff like that. And I guess there's also, Google told me this, there's a character called the A-Train in an Amazon TV series called The Boys, which I'd never heard of, but it looks like kind of a superhero type thing. But some good news, because I did a quick trademark search this afternoon. 3 different current trademarks on the use of A-Train, which I didn't know that there could be multiple trademarks, and there are 2 others that had it trademarked, but those are dead. But this from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website: a trademark can be any word, phrase, symbol, design, or a combination of these things that identifies your goods or services. It's how customers recognize you in the marketplace and distinguish you from your competitors. Now, a common misconception is that having a trademark means you legally own a particular word or phrase and can prevent others from using it. However, you don't have rights to the word or phrase in general, only to how that word or phrase is used within your specific goods or services. For example, let's say you use a logo as a trademark for your small woodworking business to identify and distinguish your goods or services from others in the woodworking field. This does not mean you can stop others from using a similar logo for non-woodworking related goods or services. Henceforth, Audric Estime can be referred to as the A-Train.
Because nobody else is using it for a football player.
That's right.
Done.
That's right. There you go.
Whew.
Audric Estime, A Train. That was a long way of getting there, but that was on the, like I said, it was on the official government trademark office website, right there.
That's all I needed to hear.
All right.
He is now forevermore and henceforth
A Train.
The A Train. And whether he picks it up or not, I'll make shirts. I'll make hats. I'll sell it.
Make it so. That's right.
Make it so. That's right. Yes.
Smith, Sean Stiers, Esquire, said it's all good. That's exactly right. With my law degree from American Samoa University.
Exactly.
Hope somebody gets that reference out there. Anthony, thanks for the super chat. We do appreciate it. He says,
man.
Today, just enjoying the show, and we appreciate you.
Love it. Thank you.
You want to get to some questions?
Why not? It's Mailbag Wednesday.
Hold on a second. Okay. My screen just did something really weird.
That's not good. No weird screens today, Sean.
No. Kevin wants to know our thoughts on 24/7 calling Notre Dame one of the most overrated teams of 2023.
I mean, where does 247 have them rated? So are they overrated because they're like 11 or 9 or wherever I've seen them? Like, I'm sorry, I don't see how that's overrated. Now, if you put them in like the top 3 or something like that, then okay, yeah, sure, they're overrated. That's fine because they haven't proven that yet. I think they have the talent to be there, but in the preseason, would that be overrated? Sure. But if you're right around the 10 mark, I got a hard time having a discussion about the teams that are like 5 through 15, that they're all better than Notre Dame. I have a hard time with that. And I'm sorry. 247 is a click magnet. And anytime you put Notre Dame in there, there's going to get clicks. And I think that's exactly what has happened.
They finished last year ranked 18th. They're going to have the most experienced quarterback in the country coming into this season. And, we've got another question about that, these quarterback tiers that we can get to here in a minute. But they're going to have the most experienced quarterback in the country who's thrown over 100 touchdown passes in his career. You're going to add that to what Notre Dame had. Really, the most substantial losses from the offense are going to be Logan Diggs and Michael Mayer. And we expect that, again, Jadarian Price being healthy, that he should be able to jump in, and you might even have elevated running back play out of that whole thing if he performs like we saw him performing last spring. And we expect that the offense is going to be much more downfield as well between Hartman and the receivers. And I think the defense is going to be better. They've got some questions up front. I think you nailed it. Like it's easy clickbait to say something like Notre Dame is overrated, because then you're going to just rile up the Notre Dame fan base, and everyone else is going to go, yep, Notre Dame's always overrated.
Of course.
But they finished last year 18th, and you're right, they're ranked around 11th. I think that they're properly rated now.
I mean, that's fine, because look, if you're in the top 15 to start off with, you're in great shape to go get a college football playoff, spot if you take care of your business, right? I think that's the most important part. What is the end goal? The end goal is to be in the top 4 when it's all said and done. They're properly rated right around 10, which I'm totally fine with. They have 3 pretty stinking big games on their schedule that will make or break their season. If they take care of their business there, if they go 2-1 in those games and are competitive in the third, I think they're going to be just fine to get one of those 4 spots. I really do.
And not that I think this is going to happen, but even if they win the other 9 games, lose those 3, go to a bowl game, there's a pretty good chance they're going to end up 10-3. And guess where they'll probably be ranked? Right around where they're ranked right now.
That's true.
This season.
And that would be, wouldn't you be
assuming those 3 games are competitive games,
sure,
even if they lose those 3 games.
Wouldn't you be disappointed with that though?
Oh, I would. I'm just saying, like if we're talking about whether or not a ranking is deserved, if they do just the minimal, which is just that, win the 9 games they're supposed to win, but lose 3 competitive games to Ohio State, USC, and Clemson, win a bowl game, they'll be ranked right around the top 12. That's where they'll end up. Yeah, and I would be completely disappointed with that, based on everything, all that we just talked about with Hartman and
Yeah.
and everything else. And
If
what
they
we're
laid
seeing
an
in this
egg in
game.
all 3 of those games, it would be like, oh my gosh. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe my thoughts on Marcus Freeman are way off base. Like that would be my thought process in December. If
Question
that's
some
the case.
things.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I would question.
Yep, for sure. Salty. ESPN's David Hale published a 20-tier.
Good
You heard
Lord.
that right. 20-tier quarterback ranking of the FBS top quarterbacks. Sam Hartman, if I could talk, in tier 4 behind guys like Rising, Daniels, Harris, McCarthy. Stupidity or bias? And before we answer that, because you and I were talking about it right before we started, you don't have the ESPN Plus. I have the ESPN Plus. So here's tier 1A. And this is according to Hale, the guy who wrote this. Tier 1A is the guys will be dissecting with every throw between now and April. Just 2 players. Can you guess them?
It's going to be the kid from USC,
Caleb
and the
Williams,
kid from North Carolina.
Drake May. That's right. So that is tier 1A.
That's low-hanging fruit right there.
Yes. Tier 1B, the most prolific quarterbacks not named Williams or May. 4 players in this tier. Florida State's Jordan Travis, Oregon's Bo Nix, Utah's Cam Rising, Washington's Michael Penix Jr. So that is 6 total in tier 1.
It is amazing how in love people are with Penix, who is at IU,
right,
and fell off the face of the earth. And all of a sudden now he's the tier 1B. Okay, great. And then Bo Nix. Everybody thought Bo Nix was a bum when he was at Auburn. An absolute bum. And then all of a sudden he's tier 1B? Really? Right. Really?
And Jordan Travis is in tier 1 from Florida State. Right. Even though in head-to-head matchup, Sam Hartman, who is in tier 4, has won twice against Jordan Travis in Florida State.
Yeah.
So,
right. Absolutely.
Keep that in mind. What is Jordan Travis led Florida State to? So
and Cam Rising is a good, solid quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. I'm not giving up my draft to draft him. I mean, are you telling me that he's the 3rd best quarterback in the draft? Or at least right in that neighborhood because he's tier 1B? No, sorry.
Here's tier 2. You may not have noticed these guys, but they are really good, according to Hale. 4 guys here. Arkansas's KJ Jefferson, Jalen Daniels from Kansas, Michigan's JJ McCarthy.
There you go.
And UT San Antonio's Frank Harris. Tier 2. All those guys ranked ahead of Sam Hartman. JJ McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, JJ McCarthy was in a
handoff
battle.
Machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in a quarterback battle last year, barely won it. I mean, he didn't even win it going into the season, and now all of a sudden he's a tier 2 quarterback. Come on now.
Tier 3. Never question the system. 12 players, 6 jobs. They've got all 3 Alabama quarterbacks in tier 3. Tyler Buckner.
Buckner is ahead of Sam Hartman.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson, basically just because they play for Alabama. Clemson's Cade Klubnik, who was just gangbusters last year.
Yeah, got completely smoke showed by Notre Dame. Yeah.
Georgia's Carson Beck or Brock Vandegrift. They're putting them in there despite the fact that nobody knows anything about them. Same with Ohio State's Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. Penn State's Drew Allar or Bo Pribula. Don't know exactly how to say that.
Making stuff up.
Yep. Tennessee's Joe Milton or Nico. Man, I am Oliva. I have no idea how to say that. But I'm trying to see what he says. Okay, here we go. Oh no, never mind. There are questions about Milton after false starts at both Michigan. Okay, that's Milton. Sorry. I was looking for
this is hilarious.
Buckner in the whole Alabama 15 situation. Tier 4A, Coastal Carolina's Grayson McCall, Duke's Riley Leonard, K-State's Will Howard, LSU's Jaden Daniels. Now you have Notre Dame's Sam Hartman, Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel, and Tulane's Michael Pratt. So he is throwing them.
You named 20 quarterbacks.
Right.
20 plus quarterbacks that he thinks are better than Sam Hartman.
Right.
Awesome. There aren't 20 quarterbacks in the history of college football that have more yards than Sam Hartman. In the history of college football. But he's got 20 current quarterbacks, some of whom aren't even going to start for their team, ahead of Sam Hartman. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Like he's got basically Alabama and Georgia quarterbacks in there ahead of Hartman just because of who they play for.
Right.
And to have J.J. McCarthy is just ludicrous. To have McCarthy.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, are we actually talking about merit or just because of the team that they happen to be on? Now, what he says in here, and I need to scroll back down. I'll read you what he says about his justification.
Yes, please do.
For Hartman being where he is. Because just looking at this, are we talking about – you can't even argue that pro potential is part of this thing, by having a guy like McCarthy in front and some of these other guys. Like
if we're doing draft,
you can't even say he's just a good. You can't even say he's just a good college quarterback from a system, because I'm trying to find where it is. Okay, here we go. Much has been said of Hartman's adjustment to a new offensive system after so much success in Wake Forest's slow mesh option. But that may overlook the bigger change to his offensive surroundings. In 5 seasons at Wake, Hartman played with 5 different receivers who finished with at least 1,000 yards. Notre Dame has had just one 1,000-yard receiver since 2015. While Notre Dame may be the team with more blue-chip talent, the Deacons surrounded Hartman with some top-tier receivers. Of course, Hartman could have made Wake's receivers a lot better, as one ACC coach noted. He's super accurate, but with what he's doing at Wake, he's as good a passer as we played against. Balls were incomplete because we had to fight for him. Yeah, I mean, don't you think that the second paragraph basically erases the first paragraph? Like, do you think that those receiver, it's not like Wake has been pumping out NFL receiver after NFL receiver. It's part of the system, but don't you think the quarterback helped make some of those guys, turn them into 1,000-yard receivers? Right. Don't you think when you put him with some pretty talented guys at Notre Dame, that whether they're 1,000-yard or not, that they're going to be a lot closer to that? I think we're going to see multiple guys closer to that 1,000-yard mark, than we've seen probably since, basically in the last 10 years.
And there's a reason that there haven't been 1,000-yard receivers at the University of Notre Dame, and it's all because of who's throwing them the football. Is this moron ever watched college football? Like when Notre Dame, has he flipped on NBC on a Saturday afternoon and watched Drew Pine like covering his eyes and just chucking the ball various places? Like have we not seen, Ian Book never throw the ball downfield? Like, those have been the quarterbacks since 2018. You're right. There's only been 1,000-yard receiver. You are absolutely correct.
Right.
So bringing in a guy who's ranked in the top 20 all time in yardage isn't going to make those receivers a little bit better. Maybe, just maybe. Like
when the quarterback can't or isn't willing to pull the trigger, there's only so much a receiver can do.
This is a frustrating article because Sam Hartman, in my opinion, is low-hanging fruit to put him up a few more tiers. Like that would be such an easy thing to do based on the stats that he has accumulated over his career.
And in the meantime, you're taking the offensive coordinator who coached all of those Notre Dame quarterbacks you're talking about, putting him in the Alabama system, and now you're putting Tyler Buchner in a tier above Sam
Hilarious.
Hartman when Tyler Buchner has started all of 3 games in his career.
Like that. And look, I'm a big Tyler Buchner lover as anybody. I think he's got a boatload of talent. There's no doubt about it, right?
Yeah.
Not once did I ever sit here and say that he should start in front of Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman has more experience. He's more accurate. He's better for this team right now. He was always going to be the starter at Notre Dame. And you're putting Tyler Buchner ahead of him on the tiers of college football quarterbacks. That's just... I don't know if it's lazy. I don't know if it's ignorance. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that's just not. I can't believe an editor didn't sit down and look at that and be like, dude, do you realize what you did here? Like, Tyler Buchner transferred to Alabama because he wasn't going to play in front of Sam Hartman. How can we put Tyler Buchner ahead of Sam Hartman on your tiers of quarterbacks? Like, come on, dude. Like that, you're just making yourself look silly. And then, like you said, in the write-up, he completely contradicts what he wrote in the write-up. I just, oh my goodness gracious. That is just bad. It's just really,
it's May,
really
baby.
bad.
It's May.
Man.
To come up with a comprehensive list like this and just
right. That's the other thing. There's so many quarterbacks on this list that have never played. They've never played meaningful football in college
and there
football.
are 20 tiers, and really there are sub tiers within the tiers as well.
Right.
So like you have close to
Right.
40 tiers. You know, it's
right.
like,
I saw another ranking that ranked quarterbacks in college football, and Sam Hartman was 5. Like, I feel like that's a more accurate placement. Now, I could make an argument that he's better than, because I think Bo Nix and Michael Penix were both ahead of him, along with May and along with Williams. Okay, and then they had Sam Hartman 5. Personally, I think Hartman is better than Penix and Bo Nix. I wouldn't put him above Drake May and Williams, so I would put him at 3. And I think that, is that homerish? Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see how it looks at the end of the season.
There's college quarterback ability, and is he going to be in the NFL? There's a difference between the two, because we've seen literally hundreds of guys over the years who were really good college quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks,
sure,
who didn't pan out in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, like when you look at the start of this article, it seems like he's gearing it toward, you know, because he's talking about Drake May and Caleb Williams, like those are the guys because of their pro readiness. But then as the list goes on, it has nothing to do about NFL type.
Yeah, it's just craziness. Look, I'll also be the first one to admit I am a Michael Penix fan. I like watching him play. I think he's a dynamic player. I'm glad he kind of got out of IU because he was, you know, I think it was an injury, maybe, I can't remember, but like, I'll never forget the touchdown he scored, you know, at the end of that game. You know, it was against Penn State, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Game. Yeah, reaching
out. That was awesome. Yeah. I love watching that kid play. Problem is, I don't get to watch him anymore because he plays for Washington. Those games are never on when I'm awake. But I like him. And I've always kind of liked Bo Nix. I thought he was kind of like he's very similar to kind of an Ian Book, you know, just kind of a guy who's going to go out there and fight. I think playing a little bit over his skis, you know, but he's a hustler and he's whatever. He had to transfer out, and now all of a sudden he's at Oregon. He's a new man. Like, I don't know. I just have a hard time with all of these evaluations of Nix and Penix, you know, all of a sudden, because they were cast away from the first teams that they were on. Cast away. Nobody wanted them. And now all of a sudden they're one of the best college football players in the country.
Moving on.
All right, if we will. If we must, we must.
Sean Kelly wants to know if IB is ever going to do an in-person live show. Have you heard any rumblings on anything like this?
I have not. I know you and I, like, our goal is to do our pregame show on Saturdays someplace live. Now, the problem is there's a lot of moving parts involved in that. Got to have audio for the people that are present. You have to have internet connection because we got to be live on YouTube. You know, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that we would have to figure out. I think eventually that's the plan, you know, to do.
You also have to have a location to do it.
That is also true. And so we would have to make that work. So is there one, like, we have a date set? No. Is that something that we would love to do? Because Sean and I used to do remotes all the time when we were working together at the radio station. It's fun. I love getting out and doing stuff live. It's a lot of fun. A little nerve-wracking, but it's also a lot of fun. So I want to do it. We just have to make sure that we're, as Brian always likes to say, we got to make sure we're doing it the right way when we do it.
Correct. So, and the moving parts part of that,
that's
you
difficult.
know,
I don't even know if I know all the answers to that, to be honest with you. Like, and we'd have to buy equipment, you know, big speakers and headsets, and
not just big speakers, but you need amplified speakers and
there's a lot.
Like, the connection. I'm sure that there's plenty of stuff out there, but that's, like for like the connection from the computer to those amplified speakers. It's just, there's a lot to it.
Got to
There's a
worry
lot
about
to it.
feedback and I don't
Mhm.
know. Yeah, there's a lot to it. And again, we want to do it. Like that's something that we want to do, but we also want to make sure that we're live streaming at the same time. So that's why we need a producer. We need somebody with
Correct.
the smarts.
And it doesn't come easy. It doesn't
No,
come
it
easy.
doesn't.
Good one from Chi-Town. Who's the biggest wild card on Notre Dame's roster?
Oh, honestly, for many reasons, I think my answer. Let me see here. I want to make sure. I want to peruse the roster for just a quick second because I just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing here. Yeah, I'm going with Jordan Botelho as my biggest wild card. I think he's got a boatload of talent.
He's almost the definition of a wild card when you think about it.
Exactly. And that's why I picked him, if we're being honest. I think, like I said, he's got a boatload of talent. I think he could be a difference maker coming off the edge. Has he figured it all out? On the field, off the field, all of those different things. I remember like it was yesterday hearing stories about him off the field. It's like, man, he is never going to figure it out. I hope he has, because if he has figured it out on and off the field, then I think he can be special. I mean, he's the biggest wild card on the team, in my opinion.
I agree. I completely agree. Like I said, the definition of a wild card with everything that his career has been so far, and now he's got his opportunity, and he's got to go out and he's got to prove it. I'm going to say offensively, it's Tobias Merriweather, and
Ooh, nice.
And I don't mean it in a negative way by any means, but there's just a ton of expectation on him, and everyone obviously wanted to see him last year, and we got to see the one catch. And like I was going back through some of the spring transcripts, and like guys get asked about other players and stuff like that. People were talking about Tobias, whether it was defensive players or their offensive players. They're talking about Tobias Merriweather, and just like always, it's one thing to do it in spring practice. It's another thing to put it together on the field. And they need a guy like that who can stretch defense. We know that they've got like Chris Tyree, some speed there, and, Jaden Thomas. And we know that they've got the young freshman. But I think we all expect Tobias Merriweather to be ascending this season. But he's still, as of right now, he's still a guy with one career catch for 42 yards.
Right. And that's the crazy part, right? And a touchdown, by the way.
Right.
He has the ability to be the number one receiver. And if he can take that step and be the number one receiver, and then you still have, JT, and you still have Colsey, and you still have, all these other guys, with the wide receiver room being as deep as it is, if he can step forward and be the number one guy, this offense is going to be crazy good. It's going to be crazy good, because then those other guys don't have to be number one, right? If Merriweather is number one, it just opens up everything else that Notre Dame is going to want to do. Chris Tyree underneath. I mean, can you imagine, you run Merriweather deep, you have Chris Tyree running an over route underneath, outrunning his guy. So then it's like, pick your poison. Am I going to go deep, or am I going to hit the under, or am I going to hit the post to JT, because he's also playing in the slot. Like, there's just so many different things that you can do if Merriweather can step up and be that number one guy. And that's a big ask. He's a true sophomore. Can he be the number one receiver as a true sophomore? He's got the talent. He really does. And I think it could be, this offense will be unstoppable if he can be that number one guy.
Completely concur. Going back to the question we were just talking about, we've got a couple of suggestions here. Tommy says, buy an IB Studio trailer. I need to blow this up so I can see it. Buy an IB Studio trailer. We'll put hinges on one of the sides, open it up, kind of like a porch. All you need is a driver to pull it around. And I just happen to know a guy who can.
It's great.
Not a bad idea, but it is the buy.
Yeah.
Buy means it costs money. And
right.
To do
we're doing well.
A year.
We're doing well, but I don't know if we have that kind of expendable income at the moment.
DT says you need to lease that house with the fire pit right by campus to run your show off of there, host a weekly tailgate, and charge an attendance fee.
Ooh, now you're talking.
I mean, that might make up some money. From what I understand, that house, obviously, because of its location, goes for quite a bit, on game day weekends.
Yes, it does.
So it would not be cheap.
It'd have to be like in my front lawn is where we would have to do it.
Yeah. Hey, you remember that one year you're talking about radio? Remember we did a show in one of our salesman's front yard by the corner of an intersection?
We were right on the corner.
Very, very well received show. We got a lot of attention out there.
Yes, we did. We just basically set up a table and chairs, and we did it right on the corner. And we got honks, we got people walking by. Like, I remember that. That was our best sales guy we ever had, Sean.
It was.
He thought outside the box.
Mark Porter. That's right.
He got us out into the people, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'll say it was my idea to do the show there, but it was his yard that we did the show in. Like him and his roommates rented that house.
That's great.
But then remember he brought us pizza. He got pizza from one like for free and like all kinds of
awesome. It was awesome.
Oh, the good old day. I mean, we could do something like that, but I don't know if Brian would like that.
We're going to have to start figuring out how to get out there, though.
It's the internet part of the whole thing, because like that particular situation, we ran a phone line into his house.
Right.
That's when everyone still had landlines. And so we ran a phone line and an extension cord into his house so we could hook up the radio equipment.
Yep. Yep.
That was crazy.
That was great.
It was.
We can go radio, or we can go phone line again. We'll just have to like dial up, That
was in the BlackBerry movie. They were all on dial-up internet, and like back, like using the phone, like using the computer when someone else was trying to get on the phone and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. WJS says on Midweek Breakdown, it was brought up plays they wish they could change. I guess this is historical Notre Dame plays they wish they could change. Mine would be Dane Chris fumble on the goal line against USC at night. What's yours?
Oh, this is so easy. It would be the play before the Bush push, the 4th and 9. You knock that ball down, or that ball's off, or whatever. Game over. Notre Dame wins that game, and I mean maybe we have Chuck Weiss around a little longer than we wanted, but I bet that's mine. That is mine.
That was still year one, though. Things still could have drastically changed after that.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's so hard for me to go. Like, I don't have like the photographic Rolodex in my head of stuff like that. But the two that came to mind right away, the Florida State pick play, that play from a few years ago, and I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what year it was. I can't remember if it was the first time they lost to Navy. I think it was like the triple or quadruple overtime Navy lost. There was like right before Navy ended up kicking a field goal. Notre Dame almost intercepted the pass, like a Navy pass. And if that ball is intercepted, then, they don't end up losing one of those games to Navy. Now, as it turned out, they obviously have lost multiple games to Navy, but at least that one wouldn't have happened. But those were the two but I think the USC and the Dwayne Jarrett catch and run is the biggest one.
And I think that one stands out because we were on the sideline for that. Like we were right there when it all happened, and it's just ingrained in my memory forever. A lot of people are saying the field goal at the end of the BC Notre Dame game in '93.
I like that one too.
Totally get that one. Absolutely. I remember that one as well. Obviously I was not there, but I remember it. I remember being devastated. Notre Dame should have won a national championship that year. So I guess
I don't know if Father David is here tonight, by the way, but someone who is now Father Andy was the Notre Dame that I used to work with. Speaking of radio days, he was the leprechaun that season for Notre Dame.
Could have been a national championship. Should have been a national championship. No doubt about that. And I'm still not happy that they gave it to Florida State. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting one here from We're Not Marshall. Who's more likely to wake you up to let you know they're going to sleep, Sean or Vince?
To wake you up to let you know they're going to sleep.
Is this like, hey, honey, I'm going to sleep? Like I don't.
Not me.
It's not me.
It's definitely not me. I have to tiptoe on eggshells around here if other people are sleeping. If I wake them up, it's the death of me. So I would never do that. Now, if you throw our wives into the conversation, I feel like that would happen to me. Like I would get nudged, like I'm coming to bed. Like, I don't care.
Uh-huh. Salty, back to the suggestions. Do a show from the local jail. IB's version of Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison show. Not bad.
I mean, do it from the high school. Be the same difference, right?
Pretty much.
Maybe some high schools more than others.
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, one of the schools might end up being used as a jail after they shut it down. They're getting ready to shut another one down here in about a year.
Is that what they're talking about?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, I was gonna say, wow.
Do something with it. They have a pretty nice swimming pool in that school, though, don't they?
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. And they got two really nice
gyms.
And
that's where I used to take Jesse for his swimming lessons back.
No kidding.
When he was young. Yep. I'd drop him off right outside the swimming pool there outside the building, and he'd go in and do his thing. That was probably when he was like 5 or 6 or however old that he was. All right. Well, I see a lot of different stuff in here. Interesting one from Salty. With a name like Bodie Cahoon, and I'm not sure exactly how to say that name, which sport would he be expected to play? Football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, or fencing?
Bodie. Bodie feels like a baseball name to me.
That's what I think.
That was my first initial thought on this. It feels like a baseball name, so I'm going to go with baseball.
That's what I think as well. I think baseball is the best one. Bodie Cahoon.
Bodie feels like a Bodie Cahoon. Next up, your center fielder,
honestly,
Bodie Cahoon.
Honestly, it feels like more like a downhill skier or something. You know, like wasn't there like a Bodie Miller or something? Yeah,
Bodie Miller is a downhill skier in the Olympics.
Yep, there you go. There you go. Vince is the encyclopedia of Olympics.
I do like the Olympics.
Got a few more questions that we've got kind of some similar stuff in rapid fire. So I've been kind of holding back on them, and we'll intersperse a few others in rapid fire. Wanted to make sure you know that I'm going to have an Ohio State reporter on tomorrow's show. So
nice. Okay.
We're going to do kind of
let him in. We're going to let him in the front door.
Yeah, that's right. Where Ohio State is coming out of the spring, and you know those kind of things. Some other general stuff. I'll ask him about Lorenzo Styles, obviously, and some different things. But for our people, I'm going to have to record it. He can't do the live show at 6, unfortunately, so I'm going to record it tomorrow afternoon. You know, before the show, and then we'll have it for the show at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So if you have any Ohio State questions that you want me to ask the Ohio State reporter tomorrow, just shoot them this way right now. So go ahead and feel free to do that. And then
I wonder where the Ohio State quarterback lands on the tiers of quarterbacks.
They were in there. I remember seeing them. I think
they're probably on tier like 1B.
I think they were all in that tier. Yeah, they were. They were in tier 3.
Okay.
In the same tier as Tyler Buckner. Basically, it was like the multi Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, and Tennessee all had multiple quarterbacks in tier 3, all listed ahead of Sam Hartman in the 20-tier quarterback ranking at ESPN.com.
Ridiculous. Those guys have yet to throw a pass in college football, but they're better than the guy that's in the top 20 all time. Yep. Perfect sense.
Yep.
I can answer this one real fast before we get on.
I just saw that.
Okay, go ahead.
We both hit it at the same time. Go ahead.
Crystal wants to know if the oldest Freeman son plays football. I know he's a good wrestler, but haven't heard anything about football. He was at a different school during football season his freshman year. I believe he's a running back. I am not 100% certain on that, but I do believe he played for the other school, and then he transferred in
right before spring semester, right?
Yeah. It was right before wrestling season started, so, you know.
Oh, that's right.
October,
That would
November.
still been the fall semester. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came over and obviously went to state as a wrestler as a freshman, which was amazing. But I think he's a running back. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's a running back. I'll know more in about a month when off-season football gets started because my son will be there and I'll ask him.
All right. Sounds good. So there you have it. In the meantime, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go!
All right,
rapid
baby.
Fire.
All right. So Salty asked something about this in the chat. This is our lead rapid fire question today. EA Sports, of course, announced it's been 2 years since they announced that they're bringing back the college football video game, and that is going to be next summer. A year from now, they will be bringing it back. Soon after that announcement 2 years ago, Jack Swarbrick issued a release saying Notre Dame would not take part until players were guaranteed compensation from the game. Well, a report today at ESPN.com says EA has reached agreement with 120 schools to compensate players for their name, image, and likeness. But as of right now, Notre Dame is not one of those schools. I'll just use Salty's conclusion. If Notre Dame opts out, is that good or bad?
It's bad for everyone. It's bad for everyone. Okay. It's bad for us because we all want to play as Notre Dame in EA Sports, NCAA National Championship or whatever. We all want to play as Notre Dame. That's our school. That we're fans. We want to play with them or play against them. Either way, they need to be in there. So it's bad for fans. It's bad for the players because this is another opportunity to get some NIL money. And I'm not even talking about the Sam Hartmans and the Audric Estimes of the world. I'm talking about the Justin Fishers and the other guys because they're basically going to, the way I understood the article that I read, they're going to allow anybody that's on the team to say, yes, I want in. And then they're going to do, a computer generated look, the AI generated.
Yeah, it's going to be very realistic. Apparently.
And everybody's going to get a cut. And that's going to be awesome for those guys that are the 80 through 85 and then walk-ons and all of that. They're going to have an opportunity to make a little bit of NIL. And I think that that's awesome. And they get immortalized in a video game. It's bad all around if Notre Dame doesn't get on board. And I understood. I want to say this. I did understand why Notre Dame stuck their neck out in the first place and said they're not going to participate unless there's NIL and all of that. I get it. They need to be the big voice. They need to be the guy in the room. I get that. Now it's here. Get on board.
Get on board. That's exactly right. 10 FBS conferences, 120 total schools. So Notre Dame is one of about 11 schools right now that have not committed to this. And absolutely, if they're going to pay, Notre Dame needs to be in there because that was the reason that they used, as I said in that release that Jack Swarbrick sent out a couple of years ago. That was the reasoning. We're only going to do it if they decide they're going to pay. They're going to pay. So Notre Dame needs to be in this. Notre Dame is a bedrock of college football.
Yes.
And the players now can be compensated. And by the way, they all need to be tipping their hat to Ed O'Bannon for the lawsuit that he filed, I remember being in college playing the video game that had Ed O'Bannon and his brothers in there, back in the 90s, like when the UCLA, when they were winning the national championship and going to Final Fours back then. And EA Sports hasn't put out this college game in almost 10 years now. I believe 2013 was the last time they did it. And it's all because of that lawsuit. That lawsuit was still going on. It was concluded, I believe in 2014 is when the lawsuit concluded. Ed O'Bannon won the lawsuit. They're going to pay the players now to do it. They just haven't decided, I guess, exactly how much and, how all the compensation is going to work, but they are going to pay the players to do it. So Notre Dame needs to be in there. And personally, I think they will. It's probably just a matter of them making sure, what sort of the formalities of this stuff are going to be before they come out and make some kind of announcement. I do think that they will, but they absolutely need to be.
Absolutely. It's one of the best games out there. Love, 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 love. The problem is I don't have any more video game consoles anymore. I stopped buying them, but now I want to play this game. Like that's all I would ever play is like sports games. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble, Sean.
Tommy says he personally hates Ed O'Bannon for causing him to miss out on this game for the last decade of his life.
I get that.
But does your son, like, does he do video games and stuff like that? Where is he on in all that?
He does a little bit of gaming every now and again when he doesn't have sports, which thank God is not very often. So like, Fortnite and all that crap, like he would do all that, but he was more like putting his computer together. Like he's more like the engineer type. I'm guessing kind of like Jesse, like he just wanted to get his hands dirty and like build it. And then he got bored once it was built and he would play on it. But like, thank God he's got sports. Let me just say that.
Yep.
When he was injured this pat, when he broke his hip and he couldn't do anything, he got back into the video games. I'm like, oh no.
That's just what you want. You're injured, right, and now you're doing even less by sitting around playing video games.
I was like, no, thank God he's not injured anymore.
So ACC, all kinds of stuff going on there. With everything going on in that conference right now, scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you the ACC will still be intact in 2 years?
I'm still pretty confident. There's a lot of moving parts that have to take place in order for those schools to, opt out or pay out or whatever to get out of the ACC. I'm still fairly confident the ACC is going to stick around. If they don't, it's going to be just absolute mass chaos, figuring out where all those teams are going to land and what's going to happen, where they're going to go, all of these different things. So I just feel like we're not there yet. So I'm going to say I am confident that there's still going to be, what is that? So it was 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
The higher number is confidence, right? So I'm at like a 9. I'm at a 9 that they'll still be together.
John's at a 10. I'd put mine at 9 as well. I'll just allow for something. But
right.
There have been a lot of people just in the last couple of days just come out, just because 7 or 8 teams are raising a ruckus and they're discontented doesn't mean anyone's going anywhere, because like I've heard people say, well, all they've got to do is vote and they can leave. It's not nearly as simple as that. This still comes down, seeing like Derek, if he's being serious, is a lot less confident. He says 5.7. This still comes down to money and stuff that I've read in the last day. We've talked about it before. The grant of rights in the ACC runs through 2036. The current buyout fee is $120 million per school. Oof. And from what I've read, not only would the schools have to pay that buyout fee, $120 million, but they would also give up their rights to make TV revenue for however many years is left until 2036. Wow. So you're paying an upfront buyout plus you're forfeiting future TV revenue by doing this. So like you're talking about, potential of like $300 million that you would be forfeiting, like if you tried to get out right now. So it's not nearly as easy as, well, these schools are disgruntled and they'll find a way to get out. It sounds like someone would have already jumped if it wasn't an ironclad deal.
Right.
Like that's just the way it is. And that's why these schools are trying to band together like this.
Yeah, and they're trying to do the safety in numbers thing, and they're like, well, you can't be mad at all of us.
That's right.
Like, well, yeah, they can.
Right.
I mean, they can be, and they're not going to let you out. And shame on the ACC and the schools that were there on jumping on this TV deal when they did for the exorbitant amount of time that they did, because now they're getting screwed. You should have taken the shorter amount of time, and then you could renegotiate. And they messed that one up.
DT says the ACC needs a Peacock deal to supplement their current deal. And, again, not knowing what the details of this contract is, because it is with ESPN, which owns the ACC network. So it's ESPN/ACC network. I don't know if they are allowed to go out and do any other deals that would allow them to, get revenue streams from any other sources, like whether it's Peacock or Amazon or Hulu or, the CW, like the Pac-12 has talked about. I mean, that would be one way to at least get something, but I don't know. You're still talking about like second and third tier type games that would go there. So I don't know how much you'd necessarily get for it anyway. So Peacock is for winners, Derek says.
Yes, it is.
So Vince, if the ACC does implode, which again, we're pretty confident, at least in the near future, this is not going to happen. But if it were to implode, if you're Notre Dame, would you consider a similar arrangement with a conference like the Big 12 or the Pac-12?
The short answer is yes. The Pac-12 would be last on my list. I would. The time differences are ridiculous. The
And the
travel would
distance
be
is
too
too far.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
exactly.
would not. I don't think that would work out as well. The Big 12 would be bad enough because a lot of those schools are obviously also further away. But they would have to be aligned with somebody because of all the other sports. I mean, you just this day and age, you just can't be independent with all of your other sports. You're going to have to do something. So, and inevitably, that's going to come with an agreement for football. And we talked about it the other day when, we talked about how, it really is good for Notre Dame to be playing these ACC schools. It would be good for them to have 4 to 5 or whatever games locked in against whatever conference it happens to be. Now, I will caveat that with it needs to be a Power 5 conference. Like somebody put the MAC in there or whatever. Yeah, it needs to be a Power 5 conference. But
well, Mike, I think it's Chi-Town has said before. I think we were just talking about it a little bit yesterday. Like the Big East is someplace, like that he's talked about, because that would allow them to still be independent.
They would be completely independent football wise.
And I just think that it's going to be really tough with all of these schools going to, funneling toward the Big Ten and the SEC. Because remember, both of those conferences are going to have even more schools if the ACC were to implode, because that would be the ACC, or the goal of many of those schools. There'd be some leftovers that would have to find a place. But I just think it's going to be continually tougher for Notre Dame trying to make a go of it as an independent, if their affiliation with a conference, whether it's the ACC or whoever, comes to an end. And like John is saying, Big Ten, I just think it's going to be all or nothing for the Big Ten. I don't think the Big Ten is going to take Notre Dame in an arrangement like they have with the ACC right now. I think it's going to be football or nothing. I don't think they're going to allow partial membership like the ACC.
I agree.
I think the Big 12 would probably do cartwheels to have Notre Dame involved with them if it came to that. And remember, they're BYU and some of these schools are joining the Big 12 as well.
Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati's coming in, UCF. Houston. Yeah. So for the most part, I don't think it would be, I don't think your top end in the Big 12 in that fact, because I'm really a little skeptical that TCU is going to remain a consistent power year in and year out. We'll see kind of how that falls, but I don't think your top end is going to be quite as good as what you get from the ACC when you have a Clemson or a true national power like that. But for the most part, I don't think your schedule would be that much different if you were doing.
I agree.
The Big 12. And
I agree, because
your Olympic sports are going to have a home, and that's still part of the deal as well. That as Jack Swarbrick has said, you've got to have a place for your Olympics.
And so the Big 12,
the
Big 12 would be on the doorstep of Jack Swarbrick's. Like, we'll take it. Whatever deal you have with the ACC, you can have it with us. That'd be great, because right now the Big 12 is struggling to stay afloat, stay alive. They're going to bring in these new schools. That's great. But are you kidding me? Bringing Notre Dame in their Olympic sports, they would do that in a heartbeat with the exact same football agreement that they have with the ACC right now. The Big 12 doesn't have a big enough stick to be like, nope, it's all or nothing.
Right.
No way. They would beg for Notre Dame to be a part of it.
They would love to have for Notre Dame to be able to go to any of those schools across the Big 12.
Right.
They would love it.
Absolutely.
Go to Stillwater, Oklahoma. And
oh my gosh.
Lawrence, Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, Ames, Iowa, those places. They would love to have Notre Dame.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Even if it's partial. Yeah. And for that matter, not just Notre Dame in football, the other sports like basket, the two basketballs would pack the places as well.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt about it.
So speaking of basketball, high school basketball is going to do away with the 1-and-1 free throw situation. They're going to switch to the rules that the women's college basketball game has been using for the last several years. So the way it's going to work is, rather than, you get to 7 fouls and a half to get to the bonus, and then you get to 10, you shoot 2 free throws. They're going to do away with the 1-and-1, And so now you get to 5 fouls in a quarter. And at that point, you shoot 2 free throws. There's no 1-and-1. And then each quarter, the fouls reset. You go to 5, and that's when you shoot free throws. So do you buy or sell this change, Vince?
I'm trying to understand the reasoning for the change. I'm sure you could speak more vividly on that because of your association with the women's game, and they've been doing this for a while now. When they went and switched to quarters and then they adjusted their fouls. And I remember doing a couple of games with you the first year that was done. It was like 2020 or 2021. We're like, wait a minute, 5 Like we were trying to figure out the rule together. It was like the first game of the season. You remember that?
Yes.
And now you're an old pro with it.
Right.
Do you like it better? Like I like the 1-and-1 when you're trying to come back and you're trying to do some different things. You can put somebody at the line and get the ball back without exchanging any points, but I don't know. What's the benefit? Like,
game flow is definitely better. Like,
okay,
you're not going to spend, like with the current rule or with the old rule, I guess, the 1-and-1, basically like the men's game still has, like, you can get off to a bad start in a half, and a team can be, hit with 7 fouls relatively quickly, and then you're shooting free throws the rest of the half.
Sure.
And like in high school, I think it's even worse in that situation.
Sure.
So with this, again, you get to 5, and then that's when you shoot, and then you reset after each quarter. So you're not shooting free throws. And then the other thing is, like, it eliminates some of the like the box out situations like you have, for rebounding with the 1-and-1s, because like with the 1-and-1, you've got to box out on the first attempt whether or not it's going to go, because you don't know if it's going to go. So you're always boxing out. That can take more time. And then it also, from some of the stuff that I've read in this, it eliminates those box out situations, like as a prevention of injury, situations and that kind of stuff as well, which again, in high school, probably a little bit more prevalent. But I think the game flow situation is going to be a lot better. Like I've seen people, you make them earn the free throws and all that kind of stuff. So like, you're not going to spend as much time, again, because the fundamentals, unless you're talking about some of the really good high school basketball programs, the fundamentals aren't going to be as good. So you're naturally going to have more fouls. And you and I have done enough high school games that when you throw in all the turnovers, that come with high school games as well, so again, I think the flow of the game is going to be a lot better because you're going to be cutting down on, like spending a whole half shooting all these free throws, just trying to grind your way through a half and stuff like that.
Okay. I'm on board. I mean, it doesn't affect the game to me as far as like in a negative way. It's like, okay, well, this is a little bit different, and that, a couple of years from now, I'll be all on board and I'll forget about the 1-and-1 and all that nonsense anyway. What I do like, and you touched on this, is the foul bias that fans always think that referees have, right? When, all of a sudden you look up and it's like 5-1 or 5-0, whatever.
Yeah. That
resets in the second
away as well.
Yeah. That goes away. You know what I mean? And so I would be okay with that as well, because maybe some people chime down a little bit in the stands.
Yes, I concur. Definitely concur about that. I hadn't really thought about it in that aspect, but that's true. So Pat McAfee's taken his talk show, highly successful talk show, to ESPN. He's going to reportedly be making around $10 million a year to do it. Will you be more likely to watch or listen when the show goes to ESPN?
Neutral. I have yet to watch a show of his, and I probably won't watch when it's on ESPN because I'm never home. And I've heard snippets, and his takes are very interesting at times.
The Aaron Rodgers interviews and
right.
You mostly hear Rodgers talking in those situations.
Correct. And I'm actually a fan of his. I think he has some interesting takes on some things, and I think he's not afraid to speak his mind. And I did like him when I would see some clips of him on like College Game Day, that kind of a thing. I thought that was probably what triggered this move over, right? Mm-hmm. Because people like him, and ESPN figured, oh, well, the people like him, let's bring him over. So I think it's a good move for him. He's going to be making a lot of money. He's going to make his family a lot of money. So that's awesome. But yeah, I'm neutral as far as whether I'll be watching more or less.
Yeah, I think that I will definitely, at the very least, sample it because my day job is different than your day job. I think it's going to
Yes.
be an afternoon show or maybe, like late morning, early afternoon show still,
Yep.
from what I understand. And because I work from home, and I've talked about before, I've got the NFL Network on in the background most of the time, or I've got,
Right.
like a baseball game or whatever, some other shows like NFL Live in the afternoon, I'll flip it over to that. So because I'm home and I'm typically doing some kind of work on my computer while the show is on, I'll at least give it a shot. I like you, like I have not really heard any of it so far. Um, Somebody said something about his cussing. Supposedly, he says he is not going to be dropping F bombs on
Well, he won't be able
ESPN
to.
like he
So
does. Yeah. Well, at the very least, they can bleep him, if he
true.
does, or they could just leave him in there because,
Well, I
like,
guess they could.
remember The Last Dance? There were a lot of
That's true.
bombs dropped during that
That
show.
that is a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yep. So, but he says that he's not going to. And again, even if he did, they will censor him. But I'll give it a shot and kind of see what it's all about because I've even tried, like, I think, to find the pot, and like I think most of it is on like just the YouTube as opposed to some of the podcast platforms. And I've tried to find just the audio, and it hasn't been real easy to find most of the time. So I'll check it out, see what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Why not?
Whether or not I stay, that's up to him.
Yes, it is.
But a lot of people like him, and that's why ESPN's willing to go down this road.
Mm-hmm.
He's done,
Yeah.
and I
He's
mean,
very popular.
good for him. Like very, very similar to our boss. He's been very entrepreneurial with
Mhm.
what he has done with his platform, and he's made the most of it. And it has turned it into something that people like.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to suit everybody's taste. I mean, nobody's going to suit everybody's taste, but it's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that after a 36-year run, MTV did away with MTV News last week.
I was shocked they still had it when I read this question. I stopped.
I was
watching.
shocked that they still had it when I
Yeah.
heard, the news that they were doing away with it. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah, I was
Apparently
watching.
they kept that, even though, it's like they don't even do videos, I don't think, anymore.
Watching MTV News with Kurt Loder back in the 90s. That's the last time I probably watched MTV News, right? So I'm shocked that was still a thing. There's no doubt about that. And so it is shocking that after a 36-year run, MTV did away with the MTV News last week because I didn't even know it was still there.
When I heard this news, I scrolled through. I had no idea what channel MTV was on. Like, I think the last time that I looked for MTV on my TV would have been like 11 years ago during the Manti Te'o thing when I heard about what catfishing is. And I found out that there was wasn't that on MTV, the catfish show? Didn't that used to be on MTV?
The actual, like the reality
show.
Yes.
Not Manti, but there was a
yes.
show called Catfish.
Yes, I believe it was. Yeah.
Right. And that because I remember it at Swarbrick's Manti press conference that night when the news broke, he talked about this show called, like, there's a whole show devoted to this. And it's like, what are we even talking? But that's like the last time.
Yeah.
So I had to go on my guide when I heard the news, and I'm looking, where is MTV even? And I'm looking at the programming, and it's like, there's nothing on there that I recognize. And it's just yet another thing that I think the internet, and probably more specifically social media, killed. There's no space for something like MTV News anymore. And again, like I remember, like those late 80s and early 90s, you're obviously younger than me, but that was like, MTV News. We had MTV on, like when I was in the Army, when we were still in the States, before I went overseas, like MTV was on all the time. And it was like, Guns N' Roses, and like I can't even remember everybody. Like what was the in any, like, Motley Crue. There was just so much MTV playing, but it was always Kurt Loder, Tabitha Soren, all those different people. MTV News, but they obviously haven't been there a long time, and it's gone now. What's crazy is Kurt Loder, who was like sort of the biggest face of that whole thing. Like, he is older than my parents right now. He's
Wow.
like 78 years old.
Is he really?
He looked up pretty young. Pop-up video. That was VH1, I think.
Pop-up video.
Pop-up video. Yeah,
Oh,
that
I
was
remember
good.
that.
I remember that.
Yep. And my generation for MTV wasn't really even the music videos, honestly. It was like what was it when they put the kids in the house in the different cities and they watched them do their thing.
Real World.
Real
That's
World.
Right.
Real World was right up my alley. Like that
was a thing. That was a thing when I was in college as well. I think the first few seasons of Real World were getting going at that point.
Real World was high school for me.
Do you remember Puck? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
guy?
Absolutely.
100%. Controversial guys. Yeah.
100%. Yes, no question about it. So that was more like what MTV was when I was a kid, for sure. Yeah.
Headbangers Ball. And before I really even started watching MTV, I think it was like Friday night videos or something like that. Total Request Live. Yeah. All the good old days back when MTV still had videos. But MTV News is gone. Thing of the past. Just yet another dinosaur.
Yeah.
Hasta la vista. All right, a couple quick ones from listeners. Tommy, would you rather be haunted lightly by a ghost you could never actually see, or see all ghosts but aren't haunted by them? So the ghost is just hanging out with you and they're not necessarily bugging you?
So it's like that Ghosts show on CBS. Have you ever watched that? That's like a sitcom.
I never have.
It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. I was really searching for something to watch, and I kind of ran into that on Paramount Plus. I dig it. Like, I would rather see all the ghosts and not be haunted by them. I would like to converse with them, talk with them. How did you die? What was life like when you were alive? All of the above. I want to see them all.
The haunting thing, nah, I don't think so. I think Tommy asked a haunting question last week. Jesse, it turns out, the place that he is staying in right now, he believes, is haunted.
Does he have a monster in his closet?
By someone, not a monster, but he said there was one time, a few months back, they were in bed, and in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 a.m., the TV came on. And it was loud. And so he got up out of bed to go turn it off. And as soon as he picked up the remote without pushing any buttons, the TV turned back off again.
Was he dreaming?
I vote with you, though. I would rather see them and not be haunted than be haunted and not know exactly what was going on. Yeah. And the other question, not Notre Dame related, favorite adult beverage while watching football?
Well, I don't usually consume adult beverages at the house. So it's usually, and people who have been watching Irish Breakdown for many a moon here know that Mountain Dew is my drink of choice. And so that is usually what I am drinking when I am watching things at my house.
That's Vince's adult beverage, Mountain Dew.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite adult beverage is a good rum and Coke, but I do not partake very often and never at the house. So, yeah.
Well, here's how you know when a game is going on. If I'm partaking in adult beverages, it's typically when my snarkiest tweets come out. So, if you see a string of tweets on a Saturday or Sunday,
mostly on a Sunday, I would imagine.
Just assume I've got an ice cold frothy beverage nearby.
Probably, and it wouldn't be a coincidence.
All I've got to say
Cowboys
about
are playing.
Yes. It is mostly. It mostly happens I can ride the regular season, but then
the playoffs.
It all saves up when the playoffs come around. That's when I'm at my worst. That's right.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So that's it.
There you go.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for being here as always. And again, we'll get some information, some knowledge on Ohio State football on tomorrow's show. Got an Ohio State reporter on, so we'll kind of see how things went. They had a quarterback competition going on in the spring, see how far that got. see what kind of questions, concerns they have coming out of spring as well. Thank you, K-Mac, and thanks to everybody else as well. And don't forget, hit that like button on your way out. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you next time on IB Nation Sports Talk.